The city outside glittered with 1,000 lights, but inside the hospital room it was strangely quiet, almost too still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Eleanor Hart, once hailed as one of the most powerful women in the country, now looked nothing like the billionaire the world had seen on magazine covers. Her skin was pale, her body weak, her breath uneven. Machines hummed softly around her, a reminder that time was slipping away no matter how much money she had, no matter how many doctors she could afford. For years she had built an empire that touched industries from technology to medicine, but in these final weeks, she realized how little comfort her wealth could bring. The people she once thought would be at her side were nowhere to be found. Business partners had moved on, so-called friends had disappeared, and even family had grown distant. In the stillness, she knew one thing for certain: she did not want her last days to end in silence. Her voice, though faint, carried a surprising urgency when she spoke to the nurse. "Find me Daniel Brooks, the single dad veteran. Please, bring him here." The staff exchanged uneasy glances. It wasn't unusual for dying patients to ask for people from their past, but Eleanor's request made no sense. Her world had always been made up of billionaires, senators, and celebrities. Why, in her final days, would she want a working-class man, a veteran, no less, who was now just another face in the crowd? No one in the hospital had heard of Daniel Brooks. Still, Eleanor insisted with a trembling hand gripping the nurse's wrist. "You don't understand. He matters. Please, just find him." Hours later, Daniel Brooks was at his small kitchen table, bent over a stack of bills. The kitchen light flickered above him, casting tired shadows across his face. He had the look of a man who had seen too much in life, both on the battlefield and back home where survival was its own kind of war. He worked 2 jobs, construction by day, security guard by night, and in between, he tried to be the father his little girl deserved. His daughter, Emma, only 8 years old, peeked around the corner, clutching her teddy bear. "Daddy, are we okay?" she asked softly, sensing the heaviness he tried to hide. Daniel forced a smile, the kind of smile a parent wears not because everything is fine, but because they want their child to believe it is. The phone rang, its shrill sound cutting through the quiet. Daniel almost didn't answer, expecting it to be another debt collector or a wrong number. But when he picked up, the voice on the other end spoke words that left him stunned. "Mr. Brooks, Eleanor Hart has requested to see you. She is very ill and currently in St. Vincent's Hospital." Daniel frowned, confusion tightening his features. "I don't know any Eleanor Hart," he said firmly. "There must be some mistake." But the voice insisted. "She asked for you by name. She's dying, sir. She says it's important." Daniel hung up and sat in silence. The name meant nothing to him. Billionaires like Eleanor Hart lived in a different universe, one he had no part of. Why would someone like her want to see him? He rubbed his face with his hands, debating whether to ignore it. He had Emma to think about. He had work in the morning. He had no time for strange requests from strangers on their deathbeds. Yet, something about the tone of the caller lingered with him. Not pity, not formality, but urgency, almost desperation. That night, after tucking Emma into bed, Daniel found himself staring at the ceiling, restless. Memories stirred, faces, voices, fleeting moments of his past. He had met so many people during and after his service, most of them strangers he would never see again. Could it be possible that one of those encounters had stayed with someone? Could it matter enough that, in their final moments, they would remember him? The thought unsettled him in a way he couldn't explain. By morning, his decision was made. He kissed Emma on the forehead, told her he'd be back soon, and asked the neighbor to watch her for a few hours. The drive to the hospital felt surreal. He wore the same worn-out jacket he always did, his boots scuffed, his hands rough from work. He wondered if he would stand out in the polished marble lobby, surrounded by suits and polished shoes. When he told the receptionist who he was, she looked startled, almost reverent, before guiding him upstairs. The closer he came to Eleanor's room, the heavier the air felt. Nurses glanced at him curiously as he passed, whispering among themselves. To them, he was a mystery, a single dad veteran, summoned by a woman who could have called anyone in the world, yet chose him. As the nurse opened the door, Daniel hesitated at the threshold. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and roses, a strange mixture of sterility and fragility. There, lying against a sea of white pillows, was Eleanor Hart. Her hair, once perfect in every public appearance, was now thin and scattered. Her lips were pale, her eyes hollow, yet when they landed on him, they brightened with recognition. For a moment, the room felt charged, as if this frail woman and this weary man shared a secret only they understood. Daniel stepped forward, unsure whether to speak first. He didn't know what she expected of him, or why he had come at all. But as Eleanor's trembling hand reached out toward him, her lips curved into a faint smile. "You came," she whispered, as if those two words alone meant everything. And in that instant, Daniel felt the weight of something larger than himself, something that had begun long before this moment, though he had no idea what it was. All he knew was that he couldn't walk away now. This dying woman needed him, and somehow, in ways he couldn't yet imagine, he needed her too. Daniel stood frozen for a moment, unsure of how to respond to the frail woman before him. Eleanor's hand trembled in the air until he finally stepped forward and gently took it. Her skin was paper-thin, her grip weak, but her eyes, though tired and shadowed, carried a spark that reached into him. He pulled up the chair by her bedside, still uncertain why he had come or what she wanted from him. For a long moment, there was only silence, filled with the soft hum of the machines and the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. "You don't remember me, do you?" Eleanor whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Daniel shook his head. "I'm sorry, I don't." A small smile tugged at her lips, though her eyes glistened with tears. "I wouldn't expect you to. To you, it was just a moment, but to me, it was everything." She paused to gather her strength, then continued. "Many years ago, before anyone knew my name, I was sitting alone in a bus station. I was lost, broken. The world had chewed me up, and I didn't see the point of going on. I was ready to end it all that night." Daniel leaned closer, his heart tightening. He didn't want to interrupt, but something in her voice demanded his full attention. "You walked in," she said, her gaze fixed on him. "A soldier, in uniform, weary but kind. You sat beside me. You didn't know me, didn't ask for my story. You just spoke. You told me life was worth fighting for, that even in the darkest nights, dawn would come. You told me strangers could care, and somehow, that was enough to stop me from stepping into the dark. That soldier was you, Daniel. You saved me." The words struck him like a tidal wave. He searched his memory, sifting through countless faces from bus stations, airports, and city streets. He had always made a habit of talking to people who looked alone, a quiet rebellion against his own scars from war. But never had he imagined that such a fleeting act of kindness could leave an imprint this deep. Eleanor's thin hand squeezed his as tears welled in her eyes. "I built my life on that second chance. The empire I created, the charities, the hospitals, everything traces back to that night. To you." Her voice cracked. "And now, as my days come to an end, I couldn't leave this world without seeing the man who gave me mine." Daniel swallowed hard, his throat tightening. He had come expecting confusion, maybe even some mistake, but not this. He wasn't prepared to be told that a moment of simple kindness had changed the course of a billionaire's fate. His chest ached as he thought of Emma sleeping soundly at home, unaware that her father's past was tied to this powerful woman's final moments. Eleanor reached toward the nightstand with a trembling arm. The nurse quickly placed a folder in her hands, and she slid it toward Daniel. "This is for you," she said. "For Emma." He frowned, hesitant to take it. "What is this?" "A trust," Eleanor whispered. "Your daughter will never struggle the way you did. She'll have the education, the opportunities, the future she deserves. Consider it my way of repaying a debt I can never truly repay." Daniel shook his head, pushing the folder back. "I didn't do it for this. I didn't even know who you were. I just saw someone hurting." Her smile deepened, soft and bittersweet. "And that's exactly why you deserve it. Because true kindness expects nothing. That night, you didn't see a future billionaire. You just saw a human being who needed someone. And you saved her." Her hand rested over his. "Now let me save your little girl." Tears stung Daniel's eyes, and he bowed his head, his rough, calloused hands trembling. For years he had carried the weight of sacrifice, serving his country, losing brothers in arms, raising his daughter alone, working himself to exhaustion. He had never once thought that his small acts of kindness could ripple so far beyond his sight. The room seemed to blur as he finally opened the folder. Inside were documents transferring a portion of Eleanor's vast fortune into a trust for Emma, enough to ensure she would grow up with every door open to her. He couldn't breathe for a moment, overwhelmed not by the money itself, but by the meaning behind it. "I don't know what to say," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Say nothing," Eleanor replied softly. "Just live, love your daughter, and when she's old enough, tell her the truth, that her father once saved a stranger, and that stranger never forgot." Silence filled the room again, but it was no longer heavy, it was sacred, filled with unspoken gratitude and connection. Daniel sat there for hours, listening to Eleanor's stories, her regrets, her hopes. She spoke not like a billionaire, but like a woman stripped of titles, simply yearning to be remembered for something more than her wealth. When the nurse finally came in to remind Daniel of the time, Eleanor's hand tightened around his one last time. "Thank you, Daniel," she whispered, "for my life, and for reminding me what humanity really is." As he walked out of the hospital into the cool evening air, Daniel felt a strange lightness in his chest. He had gone there uncertain, even reluctant, but he left carrying something more powerful than wealth, proof that the smallest act of compassion could change lives in ways he could never imagine. That night, when he returned home, Emma ran into his arms, her laughter filling the room. Daniel held her tighter than ever, whispering a promise in her hair. "You're going to have a beautiful future, sweetheart." And it all started with kindness. And though Eleanor Hart's life was nearing its end, her legacy lived on. Not in buildings, not in companies, but in a father and daughter whose lives would forever be shaped by a single act of humanity shared between two strangers in the quiet of the night.